Hello everyone, I'm Mike D'Angelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your video review of Call of Duty: Advanced Warfare by Sledgehammer Games. It's that time of year again when the annual releases are going through the motions once more. We take it on faith that games like Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed are going to see their established launch windows. And don't even get me started on the plethora of sports games that get a new number tacked onto the end of them. Heck, this year, 2 Assassin's Creed games are coming out, but we'll save that for another review. Instead, we've got Activision's war machine, Call of Duty, to talk about. In recent years, the formula has been feeling a little stale, even while the games themselves have maintained at least a serviceable quality. But with other shooters blasting into the new generation, it's time to consider a new environment. Advanced Warfare places the future of the series on its shoulders, but it's important to consider whether or not this game is sturdy enough to keep up with the pace. It isn't as though we haven't seen games that take place in the future before. Even the Modern Warfare and Black Ops titles have taken us ahead in small bursts, and we've seen games like Halo, Destiny, and Titanfall that take a look forward as well. But this is the first time that it feels like we're playing the actual near future. Exoskeletons are not science fiction anymore. They're using them and experimenting with them in militaries as we speak. No, this game is science fact. It may even be hesitant to put itself out there because the technology is almost possible now. In any case, Advanced Warfare takes place halfway through this century. We're at a point where the military isn't merely an extension of specific governments. Instead, private military contractors are the norm. And perhaps none are bigger and more prestigious than Atlas. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Jack Mitchell is your definitive soldier. He's persistent and well-rounded, and too stubborn to know when to quit. These are especially impressive qualities after the fall of his best friend, Will Irons, not to mention the maiming that he endures in Soul. Discharged from the military, it seems his time as a soldier has passed, but Will's father, Jonathan, played by the venerable Kevin Spacey, offers Mitchell an opportunity that he cannot pass up. Assuming the role of Mitchell throughout the game, you adjust to life with a new high-tech prosthetic arm, and a role within Atlas. A lot of people may consider many of the war games that have been releasing as overly scripted, especially when these games seem to lean heavily on their multiplayer components. And to some extent, they may be right. Advanced Warfare's single-player campaign does seem to steer you in the direction of dozens of Hollywood set pieces and action sequences. But the big difference here is that the script is executed wonderfully. This is probably the best story in a Call of Duty game since Modern Warfare. It is sure of itself as well, implying that we've not seen the last of several of the characters. When it comes to Call of Duty's gameplay, it seems Activision's many teams rely on what is tried and true. It's run and gun with a twitch benefit. The formula really hasn't changed for almost a decade. Things are definitely different this time around. Taking cues from games like Halo and Titanfall, there's a whole new dimension to keep track of now, with the addition of jump jets, as well as other benefits of having an exoskeleton. Let's talk about the campaign first. As I said before, it's mostly designed around scripted events that bring you from one action sequence to another. Whether it's trying to stop a nuclear power plant from exploding, or evading high-velocity sniper fire, you're always moving from one huge event to the next. This doesn't detract from the fact that the game is a ridiculous amount of fun, though. That said, it does suffer from a lot of what the series is known for. It strings you from one location to another, throwing countless enemies at you for the sake of throwing them at you. It's a shooting gallery through and through, though this game gives you the tools to affect the battle a little better. One thing that provides a nice advantage is a variable grenade, which can change on the fly to suit your specific situation. If you've got a score of enemies in front of you, but they're hidden behind crates or tables, it might be a good idea to throw a threat grenade at them, which identifies them all in red for a time. The guns in Advanced Warfare are powerful enough to plow through most of the smaller obstructions, giving you a good amount of firepower and intelligence. Or, you could use the new Smart Grenade, which searches out the enemies based on cues you give it. And of course, no new Call of Duty game would go without showing off some new technology, like shielding robots that only remove their protection when you aim down the sights, or the Wasp drone, which is a high-powered weapon you control that just happens to have stealth. There are tons of excuses to move into the future for this game, and the developers were happy to cram as much as they could into the title. But What we're always really here for is the multiplayer. Sure, you might like the campaign and its story, but it's the online functions that really get people itching to play again, stay up way into the next morning, and call out of work. The future technology really gets thrown around a lot, especially in the form of exo enhancements, which replace grenades. This extra item type makes this Call of Duty one of the most varied in the way of customization. Together with the ability to remove just about everything and start from scratch, there are an almost unlimited amount of combinations you can create. And since we are talking about a couple of firsts, it should be noted that this is the first Call of Duty where you can fully customize your soldier, including their gender. It's nice to see that halfway through the century, women are able to join the front lines as well. But, for every forward stride this game makes, it seems there are a few missteps. For one, it has some crippling lag issues, especially on the PS4. This is due to the fact that, despite the game being hosted on dedicated servers, the connections are all peer-to-peer, a nearly unforgivable choice made by the developers. In this day and age, when you're making hundreds of millions of dollars on your game, you can spare a little cash to make the experience as tight as it should be. Still, if you can get over issues like this and hang in long enough for them to patch the servers, you'll be playing one of the best games in the series. We know that when we get a Call of Duty game, that we shouldn't really expect something too drastic on the multiplayer side as far as visuals go. Yes, the games will give you a fair amount of customization in the form of camouflages, but it usually ends there. In Advanced Warfare, you finally get some new equipment that you can throw on your soldier, so it makes it pop that much more. What really makes this game come right out and impress you is the single-player cutscenes. There are some sequences that make you wonder if you're watching a live-action scene with a little bit of editing thrown on top. We've pushed past the uncanny valley here in an awesome way. And going hand in hand with the visuals is an impressive set of actors, who lend their voices to the game magnificently. Even outside of the main attraction, Mr. Spacey, everyone involved makes this more an experience than a game. That said, the game tends to be a little impatient, with characters repeating the same thing over and over again if you hesitate just a second longer than the game expects. When it comes to the established franchises with annual installments, we mostly know what we're going to get. These games don't really sneak up on us anymore, and you'll notice that even though Advanced Warfare adds a few interesting new gadgets, it still doesn't really surprise you as much as you'd like. The extra dimension tweaks the formula enough to keep it interesting, but it still suffers a bit from some of the typical flaws that keep it from being a stellar game. Still, it's addicting enough to keep people playing, and likely enough to sell the handful of DLC packs they've got planned, so I'm sure Activision will be happy enough to prep another sequel. That's Entertainment awards Call of Duty Advanced Warfare a score of 8.5 out of 10.